There is a force in the universe that Carl Jung described as the fatal attraction of destiny. It is that moment when two people meet and, without any logical explanation, realize that their lives will never be the same again. This is not about love at first sight. It refers to something far deeper and more meaningful, the recognition of two souls that were meant to find one another. If you have ever experienced this, you likely understand exactly what it feels like. And if you have not, be prepared, because when it happens, it becomes almost impossible to ignore or explain away logically. Jung spent decades studying these mysterious connections that seem to defy ordinary reasoning. Through his work, he noticed clear patterns and unmistakable signs that tend to repeat whenever two people appear destined for each other. In this video, you will explore some of the deepest insights about recognizing when someone may truly be destined for you. Most importantly, you will learn how to distinguish genuine destiny from psychological projection, because confusing the two can lead to profound emotional suffering. Before we continue, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe that some people are born destined for one another? Or do you think this idea is simply romanticized? Your perspective is important. Jung was always fascinated by a phenomenon he frequently observed in his patients, what he called soul recognition. Imagine being somewhere ordinary, such as a cafe, a bookstore, or a gathering, and suddenly noticing someone. The feeling is not just physical attraction. It is something much deeper. You look at this person and experience the strange sensation that you have known them for years, perhaps even lifetimes. This recognition often comes with an unexplainable sense of familiarity that seems to challenge logic. Although you have never seen this person before, something inside you insists, "I know you." It is not simply déjà vu or confusion. Instead, it feels as though your soul recognized them before your conscious mind even processed who they are. Jung believed this phenomenon originates from what he described as the collective unconscious, a deep psychological layer where the experiences of humanity are interconnected across time. When two people are destined to meet, their unconscious minds recognize each other immediately, even though consciously they remain strangers. Soul recognition can also appear through what Jung called emotional transparency. With this person, you may feel able to be completely authentic from the very beginning. There is no need for social masks or pretending to be someone else. It may feel as if they can see beyond your defenses and still choose to remain present. Another remarkable aspect is the sensation of coming home. You might be far from your hometown, perhaps even in a different country, yet when you are with this person, you feel as though you have finally arrived where you belong. It is not about a physical location, but rather an emotional and spiritual sense of place. Jung also noted that some individuals reported dreaming about their destined person even before meeting them in real life. It was as though the unconscious mind was preparing the ground for an inevitable encounter. Patients often described recurring dreams involving someone whose face they could not fully remember, yet whose presence felt unmistakable. It is important to understand that not everyone who triggers this sensation is necessarily a romantic partner. Destined individuals can enter our lives as mentors, deep friends, or even as challengers who push us to grow. What truly matters is recognizing that when this feeling appears, something meaningful may be unfolding within your journey of self-development. Soul recognition cannot be forced or imitated. It either occurs naturally or it does not. And when it does happen, it often signals the beginning of a profound transformation that extends far beyond an ordinary relationship. Jung transformed modern psychology when he introduced the concept of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that appear to carry deeper significance, as though guided by an unseen order. When two people are destined for each other, these synchronicities often multiply in ways that seem difficult to explain logically. For example, you might think intensely about someone and only minutes later receive a call from them. Or you might discover that years before you officially met, you both visited the same small cafe in Paris on the exact same day. Sometimes people even realize that their life stories contain striking parallels, almost as if they developed in mirrored worlds. However, synchronicities between destined individuals often go far beyond simple coincidences. Jung observed that such experiences carry a unique emotional impact. You might dream of the same symbols on the same night, wake up with the same song in mind, or feel an unexpected urge to visit a particular place, only to meet there by chance. What separates these events from ordinary coincidences is the emotional intensity that accompanies them. When they occur, people often feel a deep sense of confirmation, as if something greater is at work. It can feel as though the universe itself is subtly signaling that the connection has meaning. Jung studied many cases where destined people later discovered extraordinary connections. Some were born in the same hospital only hours apart. Others had lived on the same street during childhood, but did not meet until decades later in another country. There were even cases where individuals lost loved ones on the same day, years before eventually finding each other. So synchronicities can also appear through confirmation events. Two people might make an important decision together, and immediately afterward external signs appear that seem to affirm their choice. A meaningful song playing on the radio, a rare bird appearing outside the window, or someone unexpectedly mentioning the very topic they were discussing. Interestingly, these synchronicities often intensify after the two individuals meet. It may feel as though their connection continues to be validated repeatedly. They might think the same idea at the same moment, call each other simultaneously, or arrive at identical insights when solving complex problems. Jung believed synchronicity reflects the way the collective unconscious reveals alignment with one's deeper destiny. It is not merely coincidence, but a recurring pattern that appears when two individuals are in harmony with fundamental forces within the human psyche. Beyond synchronicity lies another powerful dynamic known as the soul mirror effect. This is not simply about having similar personalities or shared interests. Instead, the other person acts like a mirror reflecting parts of yourself that were hidden, dormant, or not yet developed. With a destined person, you may see aspects of yourself reflected in ways that feel both familiar and revealing. It is similar to looking into a mirror and suddenly noticing a detail about yourself that had always been there but remained unseen. The person does not change who you are. They help reveal who you have always been. Jung documented that destined individuals often complete each other's sentences. This is not because they think identically, but because they access similar layers of the collective unconscious. Even with completely different backgrounds, they may respond to life with an unexpected harmony that cannot easily be explained through shared experiences. The mirror effect also appears in emotional responses. For example, you might discover that both of you feel the same quiet melancholy when watching a sunset, or that you react in similar ways to certain music, colors, or situations, even without ever discussing it. However, the soul mirror does not only reflect positive qualities. Jung emphasized that it also reveals each person's shadow, the aspects we prefer to ignore or hide within ourselves. The difference is that in a healthy, destined connection, this reflection happens constructively rather than destructively. It becomes like a mirror that shows your imperfections while still offering acceptance. This person might point out self-destructive patterns you had never noticed before, or question beliefs you had always taken for granted. yet they do so in a way that does not feel like criticism. It feels like an invitation to grow. It can feel as if they possess a special key that opens doors within you that have been closed for years. Jung even described cases where destined individuals experienced similar psychosomatic symptoms during periods of separation, suggesting that their unconscious minds were deeply interconnected. This connection is not emotional dependency. Instead, it represents a profound, energetic bond. The mirror effect also reveals itself through shared growth. Rather than one person lifting the other upward, both evolve simultaneously, as if guided by an invisible force encouraging mutual development. When one person gains an important insight, the other often becomes open to similar growth. In many cases, destined individuals also balance each other's limitations without falling into unhealthy dependency. If one struggles with emotional expression, the other may naturally create a safe space for openness. If one battles low self-esteem, the other reflects their genuine value and potential. Jung also warned that this level of mirroring can feel overwhelming for those who are not prepared to confront their full selves. Some destined relationships temporarily separate because one person is not yet ready for the transparency the connection requires. However, when both individuals are mature enough, the mirror effect becomes one of the most transformative experiences possible. It is essential to distinguish between a healthy mirror and toxic projection. In a genuine soul mirror, you see yourself reflected while still maintaining your individuality. In projection, you lose your identity by trying to become what you believe the other person wants. The difference lies in freedom. A true mirror liberates you to become who you genuinely are. Projection confines you to the version of yourself you think you should be. As discussed in several teachings from Jung, the process of individuation, becoming the person you truly are, is the central goal of human life. Jung discovered something remarkable. When two people are genuinely destined for each other, they often support not only individual growth, but what he called shared individuation. This means both individuals evolve simultaneously towards psychological wholeness. This dynamic is very different from ordinary relationships, where one partner might grow while the other remains unchanged, creating tension and imbalance. In a destined connection, there is often a form of evolutionary synchronicity. Both individuals seem to progress through similar stages of emotional and spiritual development. Jung even observed cases where people experienced the same existential challenges at the same time, even when living far apart. One patient reported that whenever she entered a difficult phase of self-reflection, she later discovered that her destined partner had gone through similar questioning during the exact same period. Shared individuation also appears through what Jung described as complementary growth. And instead of becoming identical, both people become more unique, yet in ways that harmonize with each other. It resembles two trees growing side by side, each developing its own shape while their roots intertwine beneath the ground. This process can be demanding because it forces both individuals to confront parts of themselves they might prefer to avoid. Destined people often challenge one another in ways that lead directly to the next stage of personal development. Importantly, this does not occur through manipulation or cruelty. It emerges naturally. Jung noticed that destined individuals frequently meet during pivotal transitions in life. It is almost as if circumstances bring them together at the exact moment when both need a specific type of growth that the connection can provide. Shared individuation also involves shadow integration within the relationship. Each person carries hidden impulses, desires, and qualities that have been repressed. Within a destined connection, these shadow aspects are not rejected, but explored and integrated in a healthy way. Conflicts also take on a different role. In ordinary relationships, disagreements can create distance and resentment. But within shared individuation, conflicts become opportunities for transformation. It is as though both people instinctively understand that friction is necessary to polish the deeper qualities of the soul. Jung also observed that destined individuals often develop a unique emotional language. Their communication extends beyond words. They can convey complex ideas through glances, gestures, or the simple presence they share. This depth of understanding helps prevent misunderstandings and supports continued growth. One of the most remarkable aspects of shared individuation is that it never truly ends. Even after many years together, both individuals continue discovering new dimensions within themselves and each other. The relationship becomes an endless field for growth and exploration. However, destined people do not share only light qualities. They also possess what Jung described as complementary shadows. The shadow represents the aspects of ourselves that we repress, deny, or leave undeveloped. When two people are truly destined, their shadows can align in ways that encourage transformation. At first, this may sound contradictory. How can shadow aspects create something positive? Jung found that when shadows complement each other, they form a safe environment where both individuals can confront and integrate their most difficult qualities without fear of rejection. For instance, one person may have suppressed healthy anger, always choosing to be overly agreeable. Their destined partner might display the opposite pattern, comfortably expressing anger but struggling with vulnerability. Through the relationship, each person learns from the other. One develops self-assertion, while the other learns emotional openness. Jung also observed that people often feel strongly attracted to qualities they once judged negatively within themselves. For example, a man who suppressed his emotional sensitivity might feel deeply drawn to a woman who expresses her feelings freely. A woman who has never allowed herself to be difficult may suddenly feel drawn to someone who is not afraid of confrontation. This type of attraction is not psychological masochism. Instead, it reflects the wisdom of the unconscious mind, recognizing opportunities for healing and integration. The destined person becomes a mirror through which your repressed aspects can appear in a healthy way, encouraging you to reclaim and reintegrate these forgotten parts of yourself. The idea of the shared shadow also helps explain why destined individuals often pass through intense phases of conflict before reaching harmony. These are not destructive arguments, but rather integration storms, moments when both shadows surface to be acknowledged, accepted, and transformed. Carl Jung referred to this stage as the black work, the most challenging yet transformative phase within any destined relationship. Jung documented cases where people in such connections even dreamed about each other's unresolved traumas, almost as if their unconscious minds were cooperating to heal wounds they did not realize they shared. One patient repeatedly dreamed of an accident she had never experienced, only to later learn that it was actually a repressed, traumatic memory belonging to her destined partner. The shared shadow can also appear through unsettling synchronicities. Destined individuals may experience similar emotional crises at the same time, even when they are physically separated. They might also display comparable physical reactions when situations trigger their shadows, as though their nervous systems were connected at a level that current science cannot yet fully explain. Yet the most beautiful aspect of the shared shadow is the deep compassion it creates. When you see your own struggles reflected in another person, judging them becomes almost impossible. Instead of criticism, a deep understanding arises. You recognize that both of you are facing the same inner battles, simply in different forms. Jung noticed that people with complementary shadows often develop a remarkable ability to forgive each other. This forgiveness does not minimize mistakes, but recognizes the deeper wounds that caused them. They become compassionate witnesses to each other's healing journey. Integrating the shared shadow leads to what Jung described as relational alchemy, the transformation of difficult and ordinary elements into something valuable and illuminating. Two people who begin a relationship carrying wounds and limitations can emerge as far more integrated and complete individuals than they could have become alone. However, Jung also emphasized the importance of emotional maturity in this process. If one or both individuals are not prepared to face their shadow aspects, the relationship can easily turn into a battlefield where each person projects their own unresolved wounds onto the other. The difference between a healthy and a toxic shadow dynamic lies in the willingness to accept responsibility for one's darker aspects. Jung was also deeply interested in the role of timing within destined relationships. Why do two individuals meet precisely when they do? Why not years earlier or later? His observations led him to develop the idea of sacred time, moments when life seems to arrange encounters that alter the direction of entire lives. One of the first things Jung noticed was that destined individuals often meet exactly when both are ready for the transformation the relationship will bring. Not earlier and not later. It can seem as though a higher intelligence carefully calculates the moment when each person reaches the level of maturity required for the connection. Consider a practical example. Perhaps you have spent several years working on issues related to self-esteem and emotional independence. Meanwhile, the person destined for you may have been learning about vulnerability and trust during that same period. You meet at the precise moment when both of you have developed the qualities necessary to support the relationship. Jung observed that destined people frequently almost meet several times before their true encounter occurs. They might visit the same locations, share mutual acquaintances, or briefly cross paths without any significant interaction. Then one day, when both are energetically aligned, the meaningful meeting finally happens. Sacred timing is also visible in the circumstances surrounding the meeting itself. Jung recorded remarkable cases where destined individuals met through events that initially appeared negative. A canceled flight might force someone to stay overnight in a city where they meet their future partner. A simple address mistake might lead someone to the correct place. Even losing a job might create the free time necessary to attend a course where the encounter occurs. It can appear as though life uses unexpected disruptions to redirect individuals whose paths were slightly misaligned. Jung referred to such events as synchronistic interventions, subtle moments when larger forces guide circumstances so that important encounters can take place. Sacred timing often includes a period of unconscious preparation. Weeks or months before the meeting, individuals may experience unusual dreams, intuitions, or changes in interests that prepare them for the connection ahead. It is as if the unconscious mind is adjusting itself to receive that particular relationship. One of Jung's patients reported that 3 months before meeting her future husband, she suddenly developed a strong interest in Japanese art, even though she had never cared about it before. Later, she discovered that he was an expert in this field, and their shared discussion about art became the foundation of their first meaningful conversation. Sacred timing also explains why some people meet, sense a powerful connection, yet cannot remain together at that moment. Jung believed that sometimes life allows only a brief recognition, a moment when two souls become aware of each other. But the time is not yet right. They may separate for years, yet the impression remains. When they meet again under the right conditions, the connection often reawakens immediately. Another fascinating possibility is that sacred timing might extend beyond a single lifetime. Influenced by Eastern philosophical ideas, Jung considered that some destined connections could transcend one incarnation. When people meet and feel an immediate sense of ancient familiarity, they may be continuing a story that began long before this life. However, Jung also warned about confusing sacred timing with obsession. True timing unfolds naturally and does not require manipulation. If someone must force circumstances, create artificial coincidences, or engineer encounters, it is not sacred timing, but the ego attempting to control destiny. Sacred timing does not end with the first meeting. Jung noticed that destined individuals continue experiencing temporal synchrony throughout their relationship. Important decisions, crucial growth periods, and even major crises often occur at moments that support their mutual development. Jung was also far ahead of his time in exploring how the body reacts when destined individuals meet. He observed that certain physiological responses appear specifically in these connections, responses that go far beyond ordinary physical attraction. The first phenomenon he described was cellular recognition. When destined individuals touch for the first time, even through a simple handshake, they often report sensations such as electrical tingling or waves of energy moving through the body. Jung believed that the body recognizes the connection at an energetic level before the mind fully understands it. This idea relates to what modern science now explores as bioelectric fields. Every person emits a unique energetic frequency. When two destined individuals meet, their energetic patterns appear to synchronize harmoniously, much like two tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency when one is struck. Jung documented cases where separated individuals in such relationships experienced unusual physical reactions. Not emotional dependency, but actual bodily responses. These included changes in heart rhythm, altered sleep patterns, or fluctuations in body temperature, as though their nervous systems remained subtly connected. The energetic connection can also appear through involuntary synchronization. Destined individuals may begin breathing at the same rhythm when they relax together. Their sleep cycles may gradually align, and in moments of deep intimacy, even their heartbeats can synchronize. Jung was particularly interested in the role of eye contact. He noticed that the gaze between destined individuals often carries a special quality beyond attraction or curiosity. Many people report that looking into the eyes of such a person feels both deeply familiar and intensely powerful, like encountering both home and infinity at once. Energy resonance can also influence voice. When destined individuals speak, their vocal tones often harmonize naturally. They are not imitating each other, but their voices find a rhythm and resonance that creates an unusually engaging sound pattern. Jung believed this happens because the vocal cords respond subtly to another person's energetic frequency. Another interesting observation was the way sensory perception seems to intensify when destined people are together. Colors may appear brighter, textures richer, and flavors more vivid. The presence of the other person seems to heighten awareness of the surrounding world. Jung also noticed that people in such relationships often develop a kind of emotional radar. Even when separated by distance, they sometimes sense when the other person is experiencing emotional difficulty. This goes beyond intuition. It feels like a physical awareness, as if their nervous systems remain linked despite geographical separation. The energetic intensity of such connections can sometimes feel overwhelming. Jung described cases where individuals temporarily withdrew from these relationships because the experience felt too powerful. In these situations, the body seemed to recognize the depth of the bond before the mind was ready to accept it. However, Jung consistently emphasized that this energy must arise naturally. If sensations need to be forced, manipulated, or artificially created, they are not authentic. The energetic flow of destiny is like a river. It can be strong and transformative, but it is never artificial. Over time, this energy tends to deepen rather than fade. While ordinary physical attraction may decrease with familiarity, the energetic bond between destined individuals often becomes more refined and powerful. Couples who remained together for decades frequently reported that this connection continued evolving, revealing deeper layers of bodily recognition. Perhaps the most fascinating observation Jung made is that life appears to test whether a connection is truly destined or simply a temporary projection. According to his research, relationships of this type often pass through a series of challenges that reveal their authenticity. The first challenge Jung identified was the adversity test. Destined individuals almost always encounter serious obstacles: family opposition, external difficulties, or personal crises that threaten the stability of the relationship. The difference between destiny and illusion becomes clear in how these difficulties affect the connection. Relationships based on projection or fantasy often collapse under pressure. Partners begin blaming each other, doubting the relationship, or withdrawing when problems appear. In genuine destined connections, however, adversity often has the opposite effect. Challenges bring the individuals closer together and strengthen the bond. Jung documented cases in which couples faced unemployment, illness, the death of loved ones, or other major hardships. Instead of separating, these experiences revealed deeper layers of mutual support and connection. Adversity seemed to act like a catalyst, removing superficial elements and leaving only what was essential within the relationship. The second important challenge is the test of time. Relationships built only on chemistry or convenience often lose intensity with familiarity. Destined connections, however, frequently deepen over the years. Jung observed that individuals in such relationships continue discovering new aspects of each other even decades after meeting. Time does not diminish the bond. Instead, it reveals further layers of understanding and intimacy. The test of time also shows whether the relationship can survive personal evolution. People naturally grow and change, sometimes in unexpected ways. Relationships based solely on past identities often struggle when these changes occur. In destined connections, however, both individuals often evolve in synchrony, maintaining the bond even through major shifts in personality, goals, or life circumstances. Jung also described the separation test. People in destined relationships frequently experience periods of distance due to work, family responsibilities, or personal growth. These separations reveal whether the bond is rooted in emotional dependency or genuine recognition. Superficial relationships often weaken during distance, becoming filled with jealousy and insecurity. Destined connections, although challenged by separation, frequently become clearer and stronger through it. Distance removes distractions and leaves the essential core of the relationship intact. Another challenge Jung identified was the authenticity test. Eventually, destined individuals see each other during moments of weakness, illness, emotional breakdowns, or periods of intense stress. Relationships based on idealized images rarely survive such moments. Yet truly destined individuals often report that witnessing each other's vulnerability deepens their connection rather than diminishing it. They begin to love not despite imperfections, but through them, recognizing beauty within shared human fragility. Finally, Jung described what he called the freedom test. Healthy destined relationships are never built on control or possessiveness. At some point, Life reveals whether both individuals are capable of loving without trying to own or restrict the other person. When this freedom exists, the relationship remains strong, not because either person is forced to stay, but because both choose the connection again and again. Healthy connections allow people to support each other without control and to connect without losing their individuality. Relationships based on insecurity or fear usually fail this test. When freedom is threatened, they often turn into possessiveness or manipulation. In contrast, people in truly destined relationships show a remarkable ability to love with openness. They genuinely want what is best for the other person, even when that means accepting decisions they may not fully understand. Another important discovery made by Carl Jung about destined connections is how they appear to activate hidden talents, abilities, and personality traits that had remained dormant. So it is almost as if the presence of the destined person acts like a key that unlocks internal doors you never knew existed. This goes far beyond simple encouragement or motivation. Jung described it as an energetic phenomenon, where one person's presence seems to awaken latent potential in the other. It can feel as if each individual carries specific psychological codes that activate hidden aspects of the other's psyche when they come together. Jung recorded fascinating examples where destined individuals developed complementary abilities that naturally worked together. In one case, a woman unexpectedly discovered a gift for music, while her partner found a talent for poetry, allowing them to create artistic work together that neither could have produced alone. In another example, one partner developed strong healing abilities, while the other discovered teaching skills, forming a natural partnership focused on helping others. The awakening of hidden gifts also appears through what Jung called courage expansion. People in these connections often begin doing things they once believed were impossible for them. This does not happen because they are pressured. Instead, the presence of the other person creates a safe psychological environment where previously frightening possibilities can be explored. Jung was particularly interested in how these relationships can awaken dormant psychic capacities. Many individuals report stronger intuition, vivid dreams that seem prophetic, or even experiences resembling telepathic communication after meeting someone they feel deeply connected to. It is as if the powerful connection between two psyches creates a field where subtle forms of perception become more accessible. Jung did not consider this magical thinking. He believed that human beings possess many natural capacities that modern culture often suppresses. When we encounter someone whose psyche resonates strongly with our own, those forgotten abilities may begin to reappear. In a sense, the connection reminds us of who we were before we learned to limit ourselves. The awakening of gifts also occurs through what Jung called borrowed courage. It is not that one person makes the other brave. Instead, the presence of the other creates an environment where natural courage can finally emerge. Together, they form an energetic field in which self-imposed limitations gradually lose their power. Jung noticed that these awakened abilities are rarely random. They often relate to the deeper purpose that the two individuals seem to share, as if life activates exactly the capacities required for the mission they are meant to accomplish together. Another fascinating detail is that these awakenings frequently occur in synchronized waves. When one person develops a new ability, the other often develops a complementary capacity at the same time. It can appear as if two instruments are being tuned together by an unseen conductor. Jung also observed that abilities awakened through such connections tend to become stable parts of the personality. Unlike skills developed purely through conscious effort, which may fade if not practiced constantly, these gifts often remain integrated within the individual. Sometimes the awakening happens suddenly, Some people report dramatic changes shortly after meeting their destined partner. In other cases, the process unfolds gradually, like a slow flowering of new abilities that develop over months or years of deep connection. However, Jung always emphasized that these gifts must be respected and consciously cultivated. The emergence of potential is only the beginning. To become meaningful, these abilities must be developed through consistent effort and integrated into daily life. Beyond personal development, Jung also believed that destined individuals often have the capacity to heal wounds that extend beyond their personal experiences. These may include ancestral wounds or psychological patterns inherited through generations. This healing process goes far beyond ordinary emotional support. When two deeply connected people come together, they may break painful cycles that have existed within their families for decades. It can feel as if each person carries a specific remedy that helps the other overcome inherited patterns. For example, a woman may come from a family history where women rarely felt valued or truly loved. Her destined partner may naturally express deep respect and appreciation for feminine qualities. Through the authenticity of his presence, that generational pattern can begin to change. Not through lectures or therapy, but through consistent recognition and respect. Jung documented cases in which individuals felt physical sensations of healing during moments of deep emotional openness. These moments were not necessarily sexual intimacy, but situations where both people lowered their defenses and connected honestly. Patients sometimes described warm energy moving through parts of the body associated with past trauma, followed by a lasting sense of relief. Ancestral healing can also occur through what Jung called mutual repair. Destined individuals often provide each other with the love, acceptance, or recognition that was missing during childhood. This happens naturally rather than deliberately, as if each person instinctively understands what the other needs to feel emotionally whole. Jung was particularly interested in how these connections can repair wounds related to the sacred masculine and feminine. Many people carry deep pain caused by betrayal, abandonment, or mistreatment by members of the opposite gender. A destined connection can restore trust in those qualities through consistent care, respect, and presence. Healing usually occurs in layers. Jung noticed that different aspects of old trauma surface gradually over time. The safety of the relationship creates an environment where deeply buried pain can emerge, be understood, and finally be released. This healing process also helps break patterns of self-sabotage. People who repeatedly struggled to maintain healthy relationships may discover that those old patterns simply do not function within a destined connection. The energetic quality of the bond seems incompatible with behaviors that once served as protection mechanisms. However, Jung also noted that healing is not always comfortable. Old traumas often need to be triggered before they can be resolved. Destined individuals may unintentionally activate each other's emotional triggers, but the difference lies in the context. Within a relationship built on trust and care, these triggers become opportunities for healing rather than sources of destruction. Another intriguing observation is that people sometimes heal wounds they were not even aware of. Jung documented situations where individuals uncovered deeply repressed memories or family patterns only because the safety of their partner's presence allowed these hidden experiences to surface. Ancestral healing also includes the creation of new patterns for the future. When two people build a genuinely healthy relationship, they not only resolve aspects of the past, but also establish a model that may influence their children, families, and even those around them. In some cases, this healing effect spreads beyond the couple. Family relationships that were once strained or distant may begin to improve after one member forms a deeply fulfilling partnership. It is as though individual healing creates waves that extend throughout the entire family system. After examining these different dimensions of destined connections through the perspective of Jung, we arrive at a crucial question. How can someone recognize such a connection in their own life? And what should they do with that awareness? First, it is important to understand that knowledge alone is not enough. Recognizing the signs of a meaningful connection intellectually is only the beginning. Real transformation occurs when this understanding changes how you relate to yourself and to others. If you believe you have recognized a destined connection through the signs we discussed, the first step is accepting the responsibility that comes with it. These relationships are not simply romantic experiences. They are opportunities for growth that require maturity, courage, and commitment to a shared process of personal development. This means being willing to reveal your true self, including imperfections and shadow aspects. It requires the courage to evolve, even when growth feels uncomfortable. Old patterns that no longer serve must be confronted, and both individuals must allow themselves to act as mirrors for one another without constant defensiveness. Many people unintentionally sabotage such connections because the intensity feels overwhelming. Remaining in superficial relationships can feel safer because masks can be maintained and vulnerability avoided. Yet ignoring a truly meaningful connection out of fear may represent one of the most painful lost opportunities a person can experience. For those who have not yet encountered their destined partner, the work is still essential. Jung often suggested that we attract what we need when we become the person we are meant to be. This means focusing on inner growth, healing personal wounds, integrating shadow aspects, and developing your unique abilities. Destined individuals recognize each other because both are engaged in the process of becoming whole. They are not searching for someone to complete them or repair their wounds. Instead, they seek a partner with whom they can create something greater than either could achieve alone. The most important point to remember is that recognizing a destined connection is only the starting point. The real challenge lies in building a relationship that respects and nurtures the depth of that connection. This requires practical qualities such as honest communication, constructive ways of resolving conflict, and the ability to allow individual growth within the partnership. It is also important not to idealize these relationships excessively. Destined partners remain human beings with imperfections, emotional wounds, and limitations. Destiny does not make them flawless. It simply means that their connection is uniquely suited for mutual growth. If this discussion resonated with you, if you recognized aspects of your own experiences or felt something deeply familiar within yourself, share your thoughts in the comments and write, "I recognize my destiny." It would be meaningful to know how many people feel prepared to approach relationships with this level of authenticity and depth. Remember that life often supports those who have the courage to live according to their deepest truth. When you commit to personal growth, when you do the inner work required to become who you truly are, and when you remain open to possibilities beyond the ordinary, meaningful connections can naturally emerge. If you would like to continue exploring the mysteries of the human psyche and relationships that transform lives, consider subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, and sharing this content with others. Each video here is designed to help us understand not only our relationships, but also the deeper nature of who we are. Thank you for joining this exploration of the deeper meaning of destined love. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.